a Sundance Fellow. His films have premiered at top festivals all over the globe. His latest project, Reservation Dogs, premieres on FX August 9th. Sterlin Harjo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
So I think first we should probably start off by talking about Reservation Dogs. You're the writer and producer of it, and you put together a really amazing ensemble, really cool group of people for it too. I guess, what do we need to know first?
Well, yeah, so it's a show that I created with my friend Taika Waititi, and we, just started looking for something to do together and came up with this idea that was based off two separate scripts that we had. We've been friends for a long time, and we'd get together and have drinks, and wherever we'd be, whether it be a party or whatever, we would always be like, hey, tell that story from home, and so we would kind of switch off telling stories from home. And the common thread between me being a Seminole and Creek from Oklahoma and he being a Maori man from New Zealand was that our communities are colorful and vibrant and hilarious and full of stories and superstition and magic and all these things that, I felt like we hadn't seen celebrated much on screen for Native people. And so we decided to do this project together and set it up at FX. And yeah, it really just kind of hit the ground running. It was really fast. Taika and I wrote the pilot. I directed the pilot. So we created the show together. And then I put together this group of all native. It was the first time an all native writers room has written a show. And so, Tommy Pico, Tazbah Chavez, Migazi Pinsino, Bobby Wilson, Sydney Freeland, we all came together and wrote this story, this whole season. And then continued with that had all native directors. And so we had Tazbah direct, I directed, Blackhorse Lowe directed, and Sydney Freeland directed. So it's kind of top to bottom, a lot of native crew as well, and top to bottom, a very indigenous project, and very proud of it. And I think you can tell, and also Gary is in the film and plays an awesome character, or in the show and plays an awesome character. I think from that you can tell that it was created by natives, just the way it feels.
I just managed to figure out the pics thing.
Did you see some of it? Did you see some footage? Or did you see the pilot?
I saw the pilot and I was so impressed, Sterling, and it just takes you to another place that we haven't seen on TV much. And
thank you.
I'm just really proud of that. I know it's going to New York for a premiere sometime soon. Can you tell us some about that?
Yeah, so it's premiering at Tribeca. They liked it, wanted to premiere it, and it's kind of like the first glimpse at it for the public. Pretty exciting. We're going to take the kids up, all the actors that play the four main kids. We're going to take them up and give them a red carpet experience and show this pilot too. It's already sold out, so it's pretty exciting. And then it comes out quick after that. I think the first two episodes come out on August 9th, so it's real fast. So I'm editing my ass off right now.
Right. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh yeah, no, it's good.
I see that I can't help but think of the inspiration came a lot from the 1491's sketch comedy group, based in the wooded ghettos of Minnesota and the buffalo grass of Oklahoma, which I found myself in myself. But they're a gaggle of Indians chock full of cynicism and splashed with a good dose of indigenous satire. It's a 5-member comedy group, and they've appeared on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. How did that performance go leading up to that?
Yeah, 1491s is a special thing for me in my life because I was already making films, and they were premiering at Sundance, and it was a time in independent film where, as it was hard to get things made, it was hard to get things distributed, and the 1491s was born out of that. Let's just cut out the middleman. And we have this platform, YouTube. Let's just put out, and it was also it's so hard to find funny content for Native people that's made for Native people. And so we're like, let's just make these videos and put them straight to YouTube. And we only just planned on making one, which was the Wolfpack auditions. And, you know, the rest of the 1491s and I, we'd met randomly in different places. We all ended up coming together because I was showing one of my films in Minneapolis. And me and Ryan Redcord went together, and we kind of got with Dallas Goldtooth, Migazy, and Bobby Wilson. And we all just like, let's do this. And there were other people like Elizabeth Day, and then we're there too. And we just got together and we made a video. We were making fun of the audition process for the New Moon Wolfpack, or New Moon Wolfpack. And you know, honestly, I think that, and we didn't realize it was going to be popular, but after that video came out, it was so popular in Indian country that we were like, we should just keep doing this. And so we came up with a name after that and all that. And I think one of the keys to what made us successful doing that was we did it would be easy for us just to make fun of white people, you know, like, but we made fun of ourselves. And it was kind of like holding our own feet to the fire and looking at the weaknesses of our Native people, and especially Native men. We take Native men to task, I think, and like always trying to be the tough warrior or whatever. And like, so I think like that was key to kind of why it became popular. And, you know, it was a really like, it was kind of a training ground for me in comedy, where we started doing a live show, and I had to go up and perform, or else like I was just going to be, they're going to be mad at me for getting paid the same, you know? So like we had to develop this live show, and I had to do sketch comedy. And then it was also a training ground because when I started shooting the videos, it taught me how to make comedy. You know, it taught me how to shoot comedy in a way, because it's very different than just doing dramas. And so it was really helpful. But also what was really helpful was like getting to really talk to Indian country all over. We traveled all over, you know, and then also learning how to make white people laugh at our stuff too. And we realized early on that you have to give white audiences permission, because they're so not used to laughing at Native stuff. They're so they hold like they're so like precious with us, and like they're, you know, so we really had to learn how to give them permission to laugh with us, you know. Right. I think all of that led to Reservation Dogs, you know, and as you know, we have the whole crew is working on the show, or they're starring in the show. I mean, Ryan Redcorn's doing the behind the scenes of the show, you know. It's like everyone's involved, so it feels like a continuation of the 1491s for sure. And, you know, and also very much inspired by you, Gary. I mean, like, you're one of the few people that, you know, from Powwow Highway to even Smoke Signals and my favorite Dead Man, it's like, you know, you're one of the people that kind of paved that way. I think Charlie Hill and different people, like letting people know that we are funny, but also not just funny, but complex and complicated. I remember being in Indigenous film class when I was in college, and they went around the room asking everyone what their favorite Native film was, and everyone was picking, you know, Dance with Wolves or like, you know, Smoke Signals or whatever. But it got to me, and I said Dead Man, and I said, because that's like the first, even though it was made by a white man, that white man did his research, and he created a character, a Native character that was so many different things at once, which is like, you know, and also you are a big part of that. But it's like it's funny, there's a darkness to him, there's a sadness to him, there's a mystery to him, there's poetry to him, and he always kind of knows a little bit more than Johnny Depp, you know, his character. And like, I don't know, it's like such a good performance. And I feel like, you know, all of that led to what we're doing on Reservation Dogs, you know, and whenever we were writing it, you know, we thought a lot about that, and you and all of that.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I had a great time on the set. It was such a wonder to work with these 4 young people. And I know you have a long relationship with, I suppose, Canadian Native actors, certainly with 4 Sheets in the Wind, or To the Wind. With Tamara, and of course she appears in the pilot. Yeah. But then does she seamlessly get replaced by her sister?
She does. It was heartbreaking and hard, but she couldn't, we couldn't get her released from her show that she's on. And it was honestly like that part was between her and her sister. I mean, they were like neck and neck the whole time. And so we ended up casting Sarah to replace her. And both of them have both of them do that character amazing, you know, and it would have been great either way. But I think things happen for a reason, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll bring Tamara back to season 2 for sure, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart as well,
Yeah.
and a fantastic trio of actors. And you also involved Jennifer, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly can. If we want to book the 1491s, you can go to 1491, s@gmail.com. I was amazed by your website, Sterling. There's so much on there, and I saw one of my favorite artists, Sean Gosshorn, who we just lost, of course, last year or two. And can you tell us a bit about that website? It's such a powerful unit. If anybody wants to get to know you a little better, that's the place to go.
Yeah, like I think like I've always been a person that does a lot of things. I'm not satisfied doing one thing. So I wanted to have this website where I could kind of put all of that. So I do a podcast, which I haven't done as much of since I did do this show, but you can go through and Louise Erdrich and Joey Harjo and Samantha Crane. I've interviewed a lot of people over the years, and it's very random, but it's like I just interview Native people mainly. And that's called the Cuts podcast. You can get it on wherever you get podcasts. It's called the Cuts with Sterlin Harjo. And then but then I also have these videos that I did, and I wanted to showcase all that stuff that I do, because I feel like it's important for us to do many things. That's why I'm excited for Rutherford Falls to come out, that's already come out, but I'm excited that that's out. I'm excited for Reservation Dogs. I'm excited for all these things to come out, because we have to, if we're changing things, we have to do it from such a lot of different angles, and we're not just one thing. We have different types of comedy. We do dramas, we do all of that. And I think the more we put out, more content that we put out, because look, it's like a lot of people talk about the lack of good representation, and we get rid of mascots and all that, but it still leaves a place where our young people need representation. And so we have to make that content to take the place of all the negativity that we're removing. We have to make content that they can grab hold of, and I think that the more we do, the better and healthier we are as a people, I believe.
Sterlin, you're kind of peerless in your craft, where there's not a lot of people in the same vein as you that have so many feature films and are, really just continuing to turn them out. And now you've gone from the independent world to doing something a lot more mainstream. Can you tell us a little bit about how you feel like you're making your mark, and who you are within this independent film world and then the greater industry?
Yeah, I think that it was as simple as I came on board with 4 Sheets to the Wind in my short films at a time when no one wanted to fund any independent films. It was a really hard time to get independent films funded. It was post Smoke Signals, it was post Pulp Fiction and all that. And I came in thinking, I'm going to get these budgets, I'm going to make a film, went through the Sundance Labs, but then it was like crickets. No one wanted to make independent films. The industry kind of collapsed a little bit. And I had to make a decision. And I went to LA, and I remember taking all these meetings, and they all kind of kiss your ass because you came out of Sundance, but they don't really want to make your films, and they're not going to give you the money. And so I realized then that I had a choice. I could give up, or there was 3 choices. I could give up, which I wasn't going to do. I could stay and I could go to LA and try to like work as a PA and work my way up and whatever, or get in something, and then, or I could go home where people support me and people are into what I do, and I could just try to make my films there for no money. And so that's what I did. And the gamble that I took was like, I know that if I just keep making good work, eventually this industry will turn around, and I'll see that change and I'll benefit from it. And it really happened exactly like that. And there was a lot of times where I wanted to give up, and there was a lot of times where I thought I couldn't do it, but I stuck it out. And I remember like all of a sudden streaming started taking off. All of a sudden in TV, they don't care if you have stars or not. Like you can have like a lot of our leads, or like the kids are like unknown, they never acted before, and in television they don't care about that, and in streaming it just kind of opened the door, and it kind of cracked everything wide open. And I started taking meetings, and all of a sudden they were like, wow, you've made so many different types of things, like from documentaries to films. Like, how do you do all this? I'm just like, I'm hungry, man. Like, I had to. But because of that, the doors were opened for me easier. They knew that I did the work, you know, and I was just ready. Like, I was ready to start making stuff, and I started selling TV shows. And then Taika and I came up with this idea, and it kind of off to the races. But I also think that it's an opportunity for me. You know, one of the good things about just staying home in Oklahoma and doing it from here is they keep you humble at home. You know, like, you can't go around acting cool, you know, like they know me, like they don't care. And so I think that I have an opportunity to make what I do and maybe inspire others to do what they do in a way that's different than what the film industry has been. I mean, Gary knows, like, on our set, there wasn't a big hierarchy. Like everyone's talking to everyone. If the actors and the kids want to sit around on the director's chairs and watch the footage, or watch us shoot a scene, like, they can, you know. You know, I made a funny video with this one PA named Zach every day, you know, just to do it, just because it was funny. And, like, you know, it's like, I think that, you know, we had a lot of Native people there and a lot of Native women, and it's like, we're all in this together, and there's a way to make this stuff in a way that feels more like a community, like an independent film, than the hierarchy of what Hollywood tries to push down everyone's throat.
I was amazed that your brother was the location manager, and,
Yeah.
and your cousin's like she's the most delightful woman in the world.
Yeah.
She's like hosting the whole thing, really.
Yeah.
But Variety once wrote, as grittily authentic as the street life here feels, Harjo also captures a near hallucinogenic mood. And that was on Mako, last effort. No, the effort before. But watching the pilot last night, I mean, that's what it does. It just takes you beyond. And then, of course, I wish I would have saw that before the medicine man came to me. I had no knowledge. And I was very unaware, to tell you the truth, of the whole content of the impact of the 1491s in American culture. That's profound. So,
yeah, I think that there's a level of spirituality that I like to inject into my work, and it really comes from being a kid listening to all of my uncles and aunts tell stories, like, and it's always been that, like, I've always tried to capture the feeling that I had when they would tell me stories, which, like, always kind of dances on this like magical plane, right? It's always like there's reality, and then they would tell a story where it's just above it, it's not like, it's not mystical or anything, but it's just above it, and there's humor, and there's something else at play, and we're not in control of it all, and I feel like that's the way that they tell those stories. And that's kind of how I want to try to make films and this show, it's like there's reality, and then there's like broad comedy and farce and satire and stuff. But in the middle there's this dance of like reality and magic and spirituality that I try to, like, that's what I want, I want to keep it there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. Jacques?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about some of the people that you've got on the show. I mean, you've got some amazing cast members, including Zahn McClarnon. I think Wes Studi was on the show. And so just working with some of those really cool actors, was that a ton of fun? Or are there any stories that happened during the shoot?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, what's cool for me is to just give everybody comedic roles, like Zahn and Wes. They've all, Gary's always been funny and like in dramatic and comedic roles, but like Wes and Zahn, they're always fierce and scary, and you gotta deal with them. But we all know them as hilarious people, like in real life. And like, so I was always like, with Zahn, I was always like, man, I'm gonna write a funny part for him, just because he's so funny. and he never gets to show it, you know. And Wes is similar. I mean, we've seen Wes in Mystery Man and things like that, so we know it's there. But it was nice to kind of let Wes just go, you know, like, and they were all real comfortable, more comfortable, I think, being funny, because it's more true to who they are, you know. And I can't wait for people to see all of them and like what they get to do, you know. It's great, and it's like, it's really cool because it feels like we're all, because it's these different generations, right? It's like Gary, Wes, Zahn, and then there's me, Blackhorse, Sydney, Tazbah. It's like another generation. And then we have the 4 lead actors, who is another generation of people. And so it's like this really beautiful sort of like celebration of what we've all been working towards, but also like passing the torch to each other. You know, it's like we're handing it off to these young people. And it's a beautiful thing for us all to get to show them how we want to do it and what's possible. And so like for me, it's like those young folks, they're going to do the really amazing work as well, like in the future, you know. And so like, but it feels good. It feels like we're all handing it off to them a little bit, you know. It's a beautiful thing.
And the role in Miko that you have Zahn in as a villain is just
Yeah.
chilling. I mean, he is chilling. Yeah. So going from that to directing him in comedy must have been a fun.
Well, you know what's funny though is like when we were making Miko and he's playing this killer, the whole time I'm sitting there going, like the whole time in between takes, he's just cracking jokes and he's making me like, and I had just met him. I'd met him once before, but like just having him, like hearing his sense of humor, man, was like, I was like, I wanted to like change his role in that movie because he's so funny, you know?
Yeah, he's a really fun guy.
When we were in Santa Fe, you know, we worked on that show Scalped. It was really funny because we were like Goodfellas. Me and Zahn, every day on our days off, we would go and sit at that little cafe. It's right down from it's like right over there where they do, it's like right over there where they do that fashion show in that little grassy area. I forget what it's called, but it's a little cafe.
The French one, Chez Mamou?
I don't remember. You can sit outside, and Zahn and I would sit there and just like have coffee, eat breakfast, and just like talk to everyone that walked by. And it was like Goodfellas just sitting out on our stoop every day, you know. Like, he cracked me up, man. He's just so funny. And you know, so like I would hear him say all these things, and I would always kind of incorporated that, a lot of that into the part that he plays.
What was the impact of Taika's influence on the creative?
Well, you know, he and I came up with the broad strokes of the story one night together, and then he and I co-wrote the pilot. And you know, Taika's busy, so he left. And then I kind of was, the rest of it was me, you know, and kind of took the reins. But he and I are so similar, and like, it's interesting because like I wrote it, I think like this show is meeting in the middle of he and I. So like I write, you know, on this show, I write more like he does. And when he was writing, he kind of meets me where I'm usually at, you know. And it's a kind of a fun exercise to have you and your friend in your mind when you're writing these scripts, you know, because like it kind of gives you the style already, and that's just, we just work towards that, you know. But to be honest, the biggest impact of Taika is that the show is made because of Taika. Taika walked it into FX where he had an overall deal and said, here's the idea, and then they loved it, you know. And then it was like the best gift someone could give a friend. Like he helped get it in the door, and then he handed it off to me, and you know, and said, I'll see you on the other side. Taika and I came up in a community, and Gary was in that community, and like it was this indigenous film community, and we traveled everywhere together, and that's how we met. And we're in Canada, First Nations, we're at Imaginative, you know, we're down in Santa Fe, we're in New Zealand, you know, we're in California. It's like and we're in New York with NMAI, you know. It was like this real cool counterculture of us slugging it out and making our films and showing them and celebrating them together, you know. And we came up kind of like as friends, all of us. And So we formed a community, and I think with any indigenous community, you have to give back and you have to pull people up with you. And it's I don't think it's something that we talk about or think about. It's just you do that, you know. And Taika did that, and he's done it with me with this show. He's done it with, you know, he's a producer of Dennis Goulet's film. He's a producer on Billy Luther's new film. And I do the same thing where I bring people into different projects. I have multiple projects right now with other filmmakers. You know, it was like one of the highlights of my life to give Blackhorse Lowe his first TV directing job. He and I met on a bus at Sundance, you know, and didn't even want to like each other because, you know, you meet an Indian, you're far away, and you don't necessarily want to get along. And then we got along really well, you know. And then Tazbah Chavez, you know, like she's Paiute and Navajo, and like she's been like a little sister to me for years, you know, and Taika. And to be able to give her first TV directing job, I mean, like, that's some of my favorite things, you know. And to be able to give Sidney Freeland a directing job on the show, I mean, that's what it's all about to me. It's one thing to have a show, but the other thing is just to employ all these people and to give back and to lift everybody up and help everyone take that next step. Because there's no going back after that. Like, we just keep walking forward, you know. And I think that it's an obligation for us as Indigenous people and how we came up. I think it's an obligation for us to do that.
I know you're over in Oklahoma today. I suspect you're in downtown Tulsa. And how's the weather there today?
Today is beautiful. It's like 70 degrees, really beautiful, sun's out. I'm sure a tornado will hit any minute, but right now it's good.
I know that's so amazing that, you know, you look at the list from the boys on the 1491s. I mean, you guys pretty well got every tribe in between Minnesota and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful to see you begin to develop the talent. You know, I know the primary cast happened to be all Canadians, and
Yeah.
I guess we both kind of know why that is. There's just more opportunity for young Canadian actors to grow than there is here in the US. Maybe you can talk to that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always like, you always think of Canada and Indigenous actors as like, it's almost like England, how people, you know, in America, we always cast these English actors, and I think there's just been opportunity, and there's been funding, and there's been support to learn how to act and to be in projects more. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think it's great that cross-cultural, like cross-boundary working together. You know, I think that's a beautiful thing. And it also, like, you know, one of the main lead kids is a kid from Oklahoma, never acted before in his life, just showed up and auditioned, and, you know, got this like major part in an FX show. And it's great to see those Canadian actors who have more experience really kind of take him under their wing and bring him along, you know. And man, like, I just edited one of his episodes that he's kind of one of the main characters in, and he kills it, man. And he's in there acting with you, he's in there acting with Wes Studi and Zahn, and like doesn't even bat an eye, you know. It's pretty amazing to see that. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about this, is to watch the growth of everyone, and like and that familial sort of community aspect of it all. And, you know, for me, we're Indigenous. You know, we're not Canadian, we're not American, we're Indigenous people. We come from the same people. We come from different communities of the same people, but all of our communities are very similar. I remember the first time I went to Australia and New Zealand to show my short film. It's about an Indian clinic. They're waiting all day, called Goodnight Irene. It's on YouTube, but like they're waiting all day to see the doctor at the Indian clinic. It's kind of just this conversation between three people. And I showed that with the Aboriginal people in Australia, and also the Maori people in New Zealand. And afterward, I mean, they laughed through the whole thing. And afterwards, I remember people just saying, yeah, man, we got the same thing here, you know, and like, and the humor was the same. You know, we have a shared experience as Indigenous people. And so for me, this show isn't just about these Oklahoma natives, it's about all Indigenous people and young people. And so to be able to bring cast in from everywhere feels really cool. It's like all of our shared experience. And that's why the writer's room also was really cool. It's like all these Indians from different places, some cities, some reservations, California Indians, Minnesota, Navajo, like Oklahoma. And to be able to mix that up and show our shared experiences, I think it's really cool to be able to do that.
I remember a long time ago, Robert Redford got us all together, all us native filmmakers. That must have been somewhere around the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And you have a little story leading up to that events that we participated to try and strengthen this film community of the indigenous people.
I mean, it feels like we were having a lot of those meetings back then. You know, I think it was like early 2000s. We were having a lot of these meetings where we're all trying to figure it out because we knew it's about to happen any day. You know, any year we knew that we were going to break through. And we were having these meetings about how to do that, you know, and there was a lot of people from different institutions. And I remember coming there, I was going to be late. So me and my friends, I had 2 Cherokees and Ryan Redcorn, we were all in the same car. And we drove straight all night to get to that meeting. And man, I was in the spirit world when I was in that meeting. I just remember just like trying to like hold my own and like talk, and like I had all these like legendary native filmmakers and actors around me, you know, it was crazy. But you know, people like Redford have always done that. They've always like, and now it's paying off, you know, there's all this stuff being made now, and all of that work that all these people did to try to figure it out, you know, we're finally getting there. And I hope that it just keeps growing.
Chuck?
And that was at Milagro at Los Luceros, that meeting?
You got me. It was fancy and looked like it was Adobe.
I think there was later meetings at that spot where I'm not sure what happened to that. You know, I wanted to ask you, Sterling, you did that series here in Santa Fe just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Was that the one you referred to as Scalp?
Yeah, that was Scalp.
And what network and how was that experience? Because
it was WGN, and it was interesting. The showrunner was Doug Jung, and he hired me because I had a good reputation, and he wanted me as a kind of consulting producer, but also to direct some episodes and to write. And that's why I said yes, because I felt like I could make a difference. Came out, it was a big cast. It would have been the first all native cast. We made the pilot, and in the middle of making the pilot, WGN got bought by Sinclair Group, and they're kind of conservative, and they weren't going to make the show. So kind of like right in the middle of making that pilot, we knew it was tits up, it was over, you know. And so it was an interesting experience, but I also learned a lot, and it actually helped me in what I just did in this show. Know what I can ask for, know what I can fight for. You know, because I had to fight battles on that show with some of the art department, and you know, the costumes, and like, you know, like the way to make the world, you know, I wanted it to be real and reflect real nativeness. And this was based on a comic book. And, you know, every day I would say things like, hey, that turquoise necklace is too big, and that's ridiculous. Take it off. They got too much turquoise on. This is supposed to be South Dakota. They wouldn't wear that much turquoise. Put some beaded earrings on her, you know, like, or like that indigenous woman wouldn't dress like that at the casino. Like her aunties come in here, you know, like it was just like little things like that to try to like keep this train on track and like show our reality, but also make a good show. It taught me a lot and kind of prepared me for this. And I'm grateful for it, because I don't think this show would have been made without that show, but also if that show would have been made, I don't think this show would have been made. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm also, you know, it was a bit bittersweet because I care about Doug Jung and everything, but like, I don't know that this show would have been made if that would have went forward.
Right.
Reservation Dogs premieres August 9th. And Sterlin, tell us how we can become bigger fans, how we can see some of your previous feature films, and if we can support your work in any way, what our listeners can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, you could find This May Be Last Time, Miko, on Amazon and different things like that. I have a podcast called The Cuts with Sterlin Harjo. Also, Gary mentioned my documentary Love and Fury. Hopefully I can get that to be shown out there. It's a new film that I made about artists. And it's kind of like fly on the wall, just following artists as they do their work. It's inspired by those old Les Blanc documentaries from the 70s. And yeah, it's a fun film. So hopefully we can show that out there as well.
Thanks so much for joining us. This was another episode of Film Talk Weekly, and we'll be back next week with Mark Boone Jr.
Ahoo.